we're gonna do our project that we started 10 months ago, which is the first row of the meadow. So this is called the meadow house, as you know, and this has been kind of an area that had been really overtaken by reed canary grass, an invasive phenotype of reed canary grass, which, you know, reed canary grass is actually native to New York, but I think this was the invasive phenotype, which just genetically is a little different. And it was pretty much all reed canary grass. So we wanted to kill that. And the way that we did that is by laying these black tarps, which are actually billboards, believe it or not. They're recycled billboards. It was the largest thing I could find, and it's actually a little thicker than your regular tarp to solarize the area. So this is kind of the big reveal to see if it actually worked.
On the back as well,
it's black.
Really get hot.
Yeah, it gets black. You know, you see, on this some kind of patriotic billboard of sorts. But yeah, this looks like it got fried pretty good. And you know, there may still be seed in the seed bank. You don't know. My hope is that after 10 months, there's not much seed. So to give you context of what we're going to do, we're going to remove this today. And that's about one of two only things that we're going to do today is pull this up, assess the situation, maybe rake back some of this organic material. And then you'll notice that we have quite a bit of espoma bags here. These are part of the delivery that they sent that are espoma seconds. You know, maybe the bags are ripped open or they were outside too long. So we're really grateful for them for that. So thank you, espoma. Now you wouldn't necessarily need to put organic matter in here because we're planting meadow plants, which we'll talk about, like our meadow planting, what types of seeds we're going to be planting in here down the line. But meadow plants don't need real heavy organic matter, but I'm still going to add some because if you could see here, it's kind of rocky. You know, there's some good soil in here, but it's a lot of rock. And, you know, maybe even just adding like a half an inch or an inch would be great. And I am going to plant a seed in here as well, so it'll be nice to just have substrate for those seeds to land on. So let's pull this back. You're going to have to get off of it or I'm going to pull the rug from under you. You'll be filming the sky if you're not careful. So let me pull some of these stones off. And that's all we did is just got some big honking stones, put it on this, and you know, 10 months later, voila. So I'm gonna pull this back and then we're gonna kill this part of the lawn. There's another stone here. Basically the tractor couldn't handle this slope area, which is why we never dealt with it. But what's nice about it is that this is the first thing that you see out of the meadow house. And so you want to have something that's really nice. So hopefully the planting plan that we have in mind will work. And maybe just get it up to this tree line right there. Reed canary grass and crown vetch, that was what most of this stuff was. There were so many voles and mice under here. Oh, so I have this. We could peel back and see what it looks like under here. I mean, this is also protecting the soil. I mean, it's pretty much hay now, huh?
Hay now, huh?
Hay now, huh? Yeah, there were so many snakes and mice and voles, and they were probably like nice and warm. Yeah, this is looking pretty damn good. I mean, do you think this was effective? Kind of looks effective to me. Now, my only question is, did we kill the seed bank in here? And oftentimes what folks will do, and I'm so impatient. I mean, we've already waited 10 months with this. Oftentimes what folks will do is they'll let whatever seed in here come up again. And then they'll just eliminate it again, somehow, some way. And then that's that next flush of seed. But I'm so impatient. I'm like, I gotta get this done. You know, how many years are you gonna wait?
Just be goldenrod.
Goldenrod, hopefully, and hopefully it's not this canary reed grass. So anyway, so let's pull up the second one. Oh, I saw this amazing mint right here. Look at this. It smells delicious. I think this is like either Canada mint or corn mint. Do you smell that? Oh, so good. So I'm gonna keep that. I'm glad I didn't kill that. Yeah, this looks pretty dang good. Let's give it a little rake just to see what's underneath. Basically what we're gonna do is plug in some plugs. And like I said, I'll go over my planting plan at some point. And we have I think maybe we had a budget for about 500 plugs. So it's not a lot, but it's, you know, for this area. I mean, it is a lot, but not for the size of this area. And then we're gonna sprinkle with seed. And I have all those seeds already in a bucket, so I'll show you how I do that. And then I have straw, which I'm going to place on top. And that will, you know, at least prevent some of the animals from eating the seed. But you see this? Isn't that amazing? Still growing. It's not green, but there's still a root in there. So 10 months, and you think everything would be dead, but there is some stuff in here that has very strong roots. But yeah, you could still see some of these roots even after 10 months. I mean, the thing is too, even with this thick, this is I think ground ivy, even with this thick layer of tarp, there's holes in it now from like the voles like eating it and everything, so you'll get a little bits of sunlight, or sometimes, you know, we only put stone on for so long and then a little bit of sunlight gets in. So it's not going to be perfect, but as I was sharing, oftentimes people will let the seeds and whatever weeds are in here flush up again and then kill it. I have some of this extra organic matter, and I'd probably add some worms in here too, because a lot of these bags had open holes. Might be some earthworms in here. This beautiful black substrate here. So my idea was just to use as much of this as I can, and then tomorrow I could come in, hopefully the plugs will be delivered, and then I could just create a planting plan with that, and after the plugs are in, add the seed to the top of that, add the straw, pray to the good Lord that everything will come up and germinate, and then we'll put the stones on this and kill the next lawn over, and then, you know, a year from now, we'll start seeding that area, and that's it. All right, we just got our heart rates up and we spread out as much of the espoma as we had. And Sandra came through with the rake and just raked it out to a thin layer along with all the kind of quote unquote hay that was in there. So this is prepped and ready to go for tomorrow. I may have to put more of these stones on that black plastic so the wind doesn't come pick it up, and I see some of the green grass kind of sticking out there. But I'll start on the plugs tomorrow if they arrive on time. And then after that, I'll show you all the seeds that we got, and then I'll run through pretty much like all the seeds that we have in here, which is quite a lot. All right, it's a couple days later from when we took off the tarp here and laid all this out. So you'll see that we kept a lot of the, I guess this would be considered hay. This is from the reed canary grass. It just basically scorched. And then we have some of that espoma mix that we had. And I was already poking in the soil here to see how easy it would be to, you know, maybe put some plants in here. And the root slayer does a pretty good job. I've actually been using this to plant a lot of the plugs just because it's quite a powerful tool. I mean, it's called the root slayer for a reason. It's to cut roots that are relatively hard. And you could sharpen this, of course, but it has just a really nice profile, nice thin profile, and I find that this is great for plugs. And I just did a count, rough count. I think we have around 550 plugs. I thought I got around 500. And I want to take you through the plants that I'm going to be planting today. I could already tell it's gonna be a scorcher. It's very sunny, so I'm probably gonna lose this top very quickly because I'll be sweating. And I don't know if I'll get through all of this today, but I'm gonna make an effort. And starting over here, we have some of the Pycnanthemum muticum. This is our short-toothed mountain mint. Beautiful mint. Let me see if I could pull one out to show you. Here we go. And this is a pollinator favorite. This is actually threatened, believe it or not, in our state, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to pick it. Also because it's a mint, and mints have an incredible ability to just spread. And I have this in our herb garden up top near the common house, and it sends out these little rhizomes, which you could see here. And sometimes they just like sit on top of the surface and then they'll start to root. And that's how they kind of move around. And of course they seed as well. So I have some of those, and you can see I have a whole episode on plugs, which I'll link to, but this is just a much more cost-effective way to get plants fast. So instead of buying 4-inch, 6-inch, 10-inch plants, which believe me, I would have loved to do, but the price comparison on a flat of 50 versus, 2 big plants. I mean, a flat of 50, you could probably only get 2 big plants for the same cost. Next one is Manard, and this is our bergamot. And this is a beautiful purple flower, and this is actually still blooming in the orchard, believe it or not. I had one in my herb garden bloom very early and then one a little later, and I love the fact that these have different times when they actually flower because it's great for specific pollinators. Some pollinators might emerge during the earlier part of the season, some of them might emerge during the later part of the season. So the fact that this could flower at all different seasons, and again, it's a mint, you'll see there's all this different rhizomatous growth growing here. And so as soon as you stick this in, we'll have to water it in for sure because we're not getting any rain. So that's another one that I really like. And this is an interesting one. I don't think this is native to our county. You can see one that's just flowering right here. This is Upland Golden Rod. It used to be called Oligoneuron album, but now it's called Solidago tarmacoides. This one's a really well-rooted one. And this is kind of a goldenrod that is not like the yellow goldenrods that you see back here, but has a larger white flower. And again, it used to be in a different genus altogether, Oligoneuron, but as I said, I think through genetic analysis, it now has been moved back into Solidago. Now we're getting into grasses, and if I step back, and I will say that grasses will be about 60 to 70% of this matrix, and I will be doing that through seed and plugs. So you could see that I have a lot of herbaceous perennials. These 3 flats are actually the grasses, and you'd say, well, it looks like you have more herbaceous perennials than you have grasses. But when I seed the rest in, which is really the most cost-effective way to produce a meadow, is to just get the seeds, collect them, or buy them. Collect them yourself or buy them. And then plugs would be the next best bet. And then if you buy like 4, 6, 8-inch, 10-inch plants, those would be the most expensive. But here is one of my favorite grasses. And I tried to get this as a seed initially for our meadow and could not find a reliable seed source. And this is called Mullenbergia Capillaris. And before I plant, I will show you some of the Mullenbergia coming up, and I'll show you some of the Aragrostis shortly because the flowers on them are so beautiful, and I love how thin and wispy this is. So this has become a popular ornamental, and I have planted this in the Meadow Home garden, which is why I'll get a chance to show this to you. Really beautiful, airy, purple seed heads. It's a warm season grass. A lot of these grasses are bunch grasses, which means that they don't spread rhizomatously. They kind of stay where they are. This one, Schizarhynchium Scoparium, Schizarhynchium, I think, Scoparium. This is little blue stem, and I have also seeded this into our meadow, and this has also become a beautiful ornamental plant, and it kind of gets us a little bit more of a tall stature. Again, warm season grass and kind of grayish blue hue with a reddish purple top. So also a really pretty grass. And then this is our native Araga spectabilis. And I will also show you this in the Meadow Home after I share with you all these different plants. You can see here's a little seed head that has come up, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's in full bloom. And you can see that this has this almost like, it looks like regular grass like that you would see in your lawn, just a little longer. But this is a short grass and it doesn't get more than 12 inches. And I thought I would plant this maybe more in the front and so that where we could see it. And with this whole area right here, I wanted to create more of a spectacular display of flowers and grasses so that when you're sitting there in the meadow house, you'll be able to enjoy it. And I'm kind of treating this as like the in-between between landscape and garden, where I was going to focus, the meadow is mostly our native plants, but this area I'm taking a little leniency and looking at native adjacent plants. So plants that might be native south or west of here as well. And that's what these plants are. So this one, let's see, it looks like kind of a brown-eyed Susan of sorts. No, this is Echinacea pallida. So this is one of our echinaceas, coneflowers, and the pallida has very thin petals that kind of drape down. And I have this planted in our pollinator garden, and we have regular Echinacea purpurea also growing in the meadow that has come up and seeded extremely well. This one is Helianthus occidentalis, which is a sunflower, and this is the western sunflower. It just has a nice airy look. It's maybe about 3 feet tall. And I have other Helianthus, some native Helianthus that I'm going to seed in here as well. But I just like the form of this one, so I thought, like, let's try that out. This one looks like a Liatris. Yes, this is a Liatris stachia, one of my favorites. This is also growing in the pollinator garden and is one of the taller prairie blazing stars and an absolute stunner. So I thought some of those real tall candelabra-like inflorescences, that is a great pollinator plant. I mean, I could just imagine being able to come out here, walk through and hear and see pollinators and butterflies. This is another one. We're lucky to see that there's one blooming. Some of these don't look like they traveled as great, but their roots are probably good. This is a verbena, as you might be able to tell from the flowers. And this is called hoary verbena or hoary vervain, and it's called Verbina stricta. So we have some called Verbina hastata here that are native around wet areas, but this is a dry loving plant. So it doesn't want to be in moist meadows like our Verbina hastata does. But so that's why I kind of chose it here, because it's usually facing a lot of sun. As you can see now, it's 9 a.m. in the morning and has all this sun, and it's going to get some of the south sun as well. So this is pretty beaten down by a lot of that sun. This might be, yes, this is the Rudbeckia fulgida. So this is not one of our native black-eyed Susans. It's also called orange coneflower. But again, I thought this would bring in some of the colors of the barn, because we went with that kind of marigold, butterscotchy yellow color. And you'll see that the solidago or the goldenrod is maybe a little too lemony yellow to kind of match. But if I showed you the colors of a black-eyed Susan or orange coneflower, it kind of matches perfectly. So that's what I'm going to be planting today. But let me just take you over to the Meadow Home really quickly, and I'll show you some of those grasses, because it takes a while for those grasses to become big enough and spectacular enough. And here you'll see the light shining through one of the grasses I just showed you. This is Araga spectabilis. And look at that. Not tall at all. Usually the tallest part of the grass is the inflorescence, and you can see that it's pretty close to the ground. And between this sage that you'll see here with the bees and this grass, the light coming through it is just so remarkable. And this is of course eastern facing light that you'll get here, and then western facing at night towards the evening hours. And I think that is just gonna look spectacular in the landscape. If we come back here, we're just starting to see the inflorescences of the Mullenbergia coming out now. So this is the Mullenbergia just starting to come out. It looks like thin, wispy purple hairs. We got some white versions, red versions, and like the purple versions. And pretty soon this will be just this full gumdrop. You see some more emerging out of here. And again, spectacular as the light shines through it, and excellent movement when the wind is blowing. So those are two of the grasses that will be featuring in the landscape. So I'm gonna get started planting and waste no more time because it's gonna get really hot today. So I think how I'm gonna tackle this is just take half of the containers here, which would be like 25 plants, and I'll just kind of space them out. I don't have any kind of real planting plan. It will be challenging for me to do a planting plan anyway, because later on I'm just going to be taking the seed and throwing it all over the place. So wherever it comes up, and I already know that when I seed areas, like I seeded echinacea a lot over there and some over here, and most of it came up over here. So you know what, sometimes you just don't have a plan, and nature has a plan that works better. So I'm just gonna try these, and you know, who knows, will these come up next year? I'm not exactly certain, but we'll give it a shot. It's not bad soil actually, it's just very All right, well, I just finished the placement of all of the plugs in the back over here, so you could see them glistening in the distance. We just watered it in, and I have to say that's pretty good coverage. I don't think I did any math on this with the plugs, but I pretty much planted them maybe 10 to 12 inches apart from one another, and these things are gonna spread. And you know, if we didn't even buy any seeds, then I think this would just be enough. But I went ahead and got some seeds as well, and I may have overdid it on the seeds. Again, I didn't do any kind of math with this. I just kind of put my finger into the wind and said, do I think this is gonna be enough coverage? And I was very pleased with it, but it was very hot today and I had to take a break. So now we're back at seeding, and I got so many different types of seeds. I have these in the sun right now, but just so you know, when I ordered them, I put them in a cool, dark area down in our basement. So you shouldn't have these like sitting out in the sun. You'll probably denature them. But I have a bucket. It's pretty much half full of sand. So you'll see some gritty sand in there, and that's just to help cast the seeds. So this is Heliopsis helianthoides. I just wanted to show you kind of what I'm doing, so I didn't put them all in at once. But I pretty much just eyeballed it half and half. So half of these are going to go on that side and the other half is going to go on the other. And if I get the sense that I'm overseeding too much, then I'll probably use the seed elsewhere in the meadow in areas that didn't get well seeded. It's a little harder to seed things now because there's so much that has moved in, but if you recall, when we were putting in the native meadow, we had under the amount of seeds that we needed. We had 40% of what we needed because it was during the COVID era and there was a seed shortage. Now this is Tridens flavus, and I'll have to show you this. This is called purple top, or also called grease grass. And I had seeded some of this into the meadow, not a ton of it, but some of it. And I just noticed it coming up. I showed it to Sander just yesterday, and I was very excited because sometimes these seeds, this is only the 32nd month since we seeded this area, and it takes sometimes these seeds 2-3 years to actually come up. And this is the first year that I've seen this come up. So this is that grass. And as I was sharing before, this matrix is going to be about 60 to 70% grass versus herbaceous perennials. There's 3 grasses in there that I have as plugs. And this is one of them, the little blue stem. But I also got a lot of little blue stem in here as well as seed. The benefit of the plugs is that they're already established. I don't need to wait 2 to 3 years for it to come up. This is a really nice seed. It is. I won't use all of this.
A lot for that small area.
That's what I said. I think I overdid it with the seeds. Well, we could use this elsewhere in the meadow because this is a beautiful grass, and now it's stuck to the tape. All right, so I'm going to now just mix this in, and that's why I have this little shovel, so I could get a nice mixture of it and not have all the grass on top. Okay, we'll take our first bucket out and start seeding it in. And I don't have any kind of seed, I just do this by hand. Just kind of cast it out. And what I'll do after that is I have some easy straw. So it's basically straw with tackifier in it, a biodegradable tackifier. And so it kind of tacks down to the ground and sticks there. And then I'll water that in. And the reason why I'm using straw is because, and not like hay, is because the straw usually has no seeds in it. They'll say like 98% or 99% free of seed. So you don't want to use hay and then all of a sudden you have like Timothy grass or something else in there that you didn't really want to seed in. And part of the reason why I'm using the sand is because you could see where you just seeded it. I think I have so much seed that I'm going to be able to seed this in other places in the meadow. And a lot of this seed is Hypericum, so our St. John's wort. I have maybe a half a dozen different kinds of Symphyotrichum, so that's our asters. That's obviously already in the meadow. We have New England aster and we have calico aster and maybe crooked stem aster, a number of others. That's pretty good. This is how much I have left, a lot. So I'm just gonna continue over here. All right, I have plenty left over. Now I'm gonna just add the straw and then we'll water it in. And that should be good to go. So part of the reason why I wanted to put the plugs in now, it's the end of summer, and maybe 2 weeks before the end of summer, 1 week before the end of summer, I think 1 week. And you wanna give them enough time for these to grow before the real hard frosts come. So at least 4 weeks before the real hard frost. Now sometimes we would get frosts at the end of September. They won't be hard frosts though. Most of the time now our frosts come in October. So I feel like I have ample opportunity for these to really establish their roots. Water them in generously, especially in the first week that you plant them, if you're not getting rain. And we are not gonna get rain, so I'm gonna be out here with the hose almost every day, just watering them in.
But the plant's not the seed to grow.
No, the seed is not gonna germinate this year. In fact, it may take a long time for some of these seeds to germinate, but most of these plants need a cold stratification period. So they'll put their energy, so cold stratification period means like winter. They need to have their seeds or their seed coat scarified or stratified in order to be able to emerge. And then oftentimes these, particularly these meadow or prairie plantings, they'll focus on the roots in the first year or two, and then they'll stick out a shoot, and then it's in the third year that they'll really begin to bloom. All right, I think this is looking really good. I mean, like everything in gardening, we just have to wait to see how this looks. But if this meadow gives you any indication of what it could look like in 3 years' time, then I think we just have to be patient with this. Of course, we only did seed in this meadow, and this one has plugs. So I think even next year we'll have something to show for it. That's it, and I'll see you in the next episode. We'll be sharing how the gardens and wildscaped areas mature as the seasons progress, so if you enjoy videos like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button to help us grow and share these videos to more folks. In the meantime, we'll be cracking away at more of the gardens and renovations here at Flock. We'll see you in the next video.